Hey, what's up guys? This is Lord Quad here. Now I'm going to be doing a little bit of an unscripted video where I just talk about Generation 1 sprites from Pokemon Red and Blue, which ones I think are good and bad or whatever. This tier list is just going to work like this. There's 4 categories: sprites that are awful, which are just basically sprites that I think are just really poorly designed or just awful to look at; serviceable, or sprites that's like they could be better, but at least they do the job that they're supposed to do. Good sprites are sprites that I genuinely enjoy, but awesome sprites are great sprites. Like they just did something. There's just something about them that just makes them perfect or nearly perfect. So with that out of the way, I guess we can get started with this tier list. It's a simple criteria, I hope. Anyways, so our first sprite here we have is Bulbasaur. I think it's a good sprite. Bulbasaur is a good I like Bulbasaur. I think its sprite here is done well. Now, Ivysaur, honestly, is pretty serviceable. My biggest question is, why did they make it bipedal? That's what I want to know. Venusaur, I think... Now, this might be just a little bit biased for me, because Venusaur is my favorite Pokemon, but I think Venusaur's sprite is amazing. It's awesome. So, next up we have is Charmander. It's pretty good. Same with Charmeleon, and same with Charizard. Can't go wrong with these three. Squirtle, again, this is pretty good. Wartortle, good. Now, Blastoise, I'm gonna have to put in serviceable. Now, it does a good job at portraying Blastoise, but I think my main problem is that it's a downgrade from its red and green sprite, where it genuinely looks awesome in red and green, but I think that's the reason why here it only looks serviceable. Caterpie, it's pretty good. Metapod, I don't really like Metapod sprite, but I think that's just because I'm not used to seeing Metapod, like, his head or whatever, reversed. So yeah, I think it's serviceable, in my opinion. I could probably move it here. Butterfree is another good sprite, I think. Same with Weedle. And Kakuna. Kakuna's a bit of an interesting sprite, because it's the only sprite, if I'm remembering correctly, unless they did this with red and green too, where you can sort of see its like pseudo stingers that it grows when it becomes a Beedrill. And I think that's just really interesting, like, lore-wise, I guess. Its evolutionary line to sort of build up that it's going to become a giant bee or something like it. Speaking of big bees, Beedrill sprite is genuinely awesome. I love this sprite. It genuinely feels like this big ominous presence, like this gigantic bee, and you can see that it takes up like a good chunk of the space in its sprite. Pidgey, I think it's serviceable. I think it's just the eyes. I don't like the direction that they did with the eyes. I think if the eyes were just a little bit bigger, I think it would be good, but the eyes, for me, they did just bring it down. Pidgeotto, good sprite. Same with Pidgeot, both good. Rattata and Raticate. Rattata is good, but Raticate's awesome. Spearow, I like Spearow's sprite just because of its smug look. I'm gonna actually put it here. And Fearow, it's not as good as Spearow. It kind of loses the charm that Spearow had, but it's still good nonetheless. Now, Ekans. I don't know what they did with Ekans, ew. I can't decide if it's awful or... yeah, it's kind of awful. I think the main problem is that, like, its face does not look like Ekans. It does not remind me of Ekans. It looks like an entirely different Pokemon. But Arbok is a major step up. I think it gave its ominous presence with Arbok. It's just really good. Like, you could tell it's threatening or whatever. Now Chubby Chew, Pikachu, instant classic, could go right here. Raichu, also pretty good. Sandshrew was pretty good. Same with Sandslash. Now Nidoran female, I think is near top of serviceable. I think it's just the way. I think the reason why it's just, for me personally, is that it looks kind of like a giant cube. I don't know what about it, but it looks a little bit too cuboid for me. Luckily for me, anyways, both Nidorina and Nidoqueen are both pretty good. Nidoran male is pretty good. Nidorino is good, and Nidoking is just really awesome. I just really like Pokemon like Nidoking because it's just cool. And Clefairy, it's a good sprite. Same with Clefable. Vulpix, it's near the bottom of good. I think the head is throwing me off, but it looks fine-ish. And Ninetales can go a little bit higher. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff are famous for their uneven eyes. Jigglypuff does not look good, but Wigglytuff, it's serviceable, I think. Zubat is good, and Golbat. Now this is an infamous one. Yeah, I don't think the long tongue direction was something that they really had to go with. Oddish, it's good. Gloom, good. Now Vileplume, I like to imagine that Vileplume is like tipping its flower, like how someone would tip their fedora. There's just something about it that makes me think that it's tipping its flower to someone. Paris, genuinely a really good sprite. Parasect, not as good, but still pretty good. Venonat, good. Venomoth, good. I think all the Pokemon that I don't have a lot to say, or it's just good, I think I'm just gonna throw them in, just say good and toss them in. Diglett is good. Dugtrio, it's pretty great. Meowth, it's good. Persian, good. Psyduck is it's pretty good. Golduck, not as good. Mankey, I think it's serviceable. I think it kind of reminds me. It's like this one green like character. I don't remember what it was. I think it's Gumbo. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Gumbo for some reason. And it just kind of throws me off when it comes with Mankey Sprite. But yeah, it's fine. I guess it's serviceable. Primate, it's pretty good. Growlithe, it's good. Arcanine is awesome. I think they did a really good job with Arcanine. Poliwag, Poliwhirl, Poliwrath, they're good sprites. Abra's a good sprite. Kadabra is really good, near the top here. And they knock it out of the ballpark with Alakazam here. It's another just awesome sprite. Machop, it's serviceable. It kind of looks like Machop just got ran over with a steamroller, in my opinion. But they step it up with Machoke and Machamp. They're fine. Bellsprout. I don't know what about it, but it genuinely looks like Bellsprout is not doing well. But I guess that's kind of what makes it appealing to me. Is that like there's a sort of detail into it that I can't exactly describe, but it just makes it look good. Weeping Bell's a little bit better, same with Victory Bell. Tentacool, and Tentacool is good, but Tentacruel is really good. I like how it's like crossing its tentacles, like it's telling you it knows what's up, and if you come near it, it's gonna mess you up. Geodude, a thumbs up. He's giving me a thumbs up. Graveler, it's good. Golem, not as good, but it's fine. Ponyta and Rapidash, they're good. Slowpoke, it's good. Slowbro, it's fine. Now, something interesting with Slowbro is that in its red and green sprite, I think, the tail, the shoulder part of the tail is actually on its backside. However, here it's on the front. So, and you can see here on this part of the sprite, the Slowbro's tail being bitten by the shoulder, I guess. Magnemite, Magneton, pretty good sprites. Farfetch'd, it's fine. It's pretty good. Doduo and Dodrio, they're fine sprites. Same with Seal and Dewgong. Grimer is pretty good. Now Muck is another sprite that I think is just really good. Again, I don't have a lot to say on most of these, and I just say it's good or whatever, and not really elaborating on it, but it's hard for me to describe, like, things, like my personal opinion on a lot of stuff, but generally, I think a lot of these are just good sprites. Shelter is good. No, Cloister? No, we haven't put one in serviceable or awful in a long while, but I think Cloister is serviceable now, or, yeah, serviceable. Because, yeah, sure, it still looks great, but the main thing that irks me about Cloister is that in its red and green sprite, they got the clam and the pearl the right way, where it's vertical. However, in red and blue, it's sideways for some reason. I don't know why they did that. Ghastly, it's a pretty good sprite, and this one I don't think anyone could deny is that Haunter is just an amazing sprite. It really gives the ominous vibe that a ghost type should give, and while it's not as great as Haunter doing it, Gengar does it pretty well too. Onyx, it's pretty good. Same with Drowsy. And Hypno is gonna go somewhere down here and good. Again, it has that same problem for me where it just looks like it got ran over by a steamroller. Krabby, it's pretty good. Kingler, it's not as great. Again, and it's red and green sprite. They exemplify which claw is bigger instead of kind of looking like they just cut one in half and slapped it the exact same thing on the other side. Although, something that's interesting that in its red and green sprite, I'm pretty sure they got the wrong claw to be the larger size. So yeah, Voltorb is a really good sprite. It's not hard to go wrong. It's not hard to get Voltorb right, but same with Electrode. They just get these sprites really good. Execute, it's serviceable. Again, with red and green, they got all 6 eggs to be the same size, and I don't know why they have the giant egg here, while the other 5 eggs are tiny. Exeggutor, it's not as bad as most people think. I think the problem is that the coconut heads are too large compared to the rest of its body, but if you understood, like, there's not a lot of space you could really work with on a Game Boy screen, so they kind of had to package everything down to be something that you could sort of visualize somewhat well. So, but yeah, I think the main problem with Exeggutor is just it doesn't have enough space to actually look kind of like, you know, tall like a coconut tree is supposed to be. Cubone is good. Marowak is not as good. Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, good sprites. Hitmonchan, I could definitely say, is much better than its red and green sprite. That is pretty infamous for it kind of looking like a Togekiss is watching a Doduo do its private business. And I remember back in the day, everyone was making jokes about that. Lickitung, top tier of serviceable. It's just the eyes. The eyes are way too small for me compared to the eyes are way too different compared to what I'm used to with the Lickitung. Coughing is top tier of awful. Now, the only reason why I'm putting it awful is because they got the skull and crossbones right in red and green, yet they somehow messed it up for red and blue, and I don't understand how that is possible. Now, for wheezing, it's top tier of serviceable. I think the only reason why it prevents it from going into good for me is that the left head here is just a little bit too large. I think if they made it just a tiny bit smaller, then it would be in good. But for me, it's just the left head is a little bit too large. Rhyhorn just is a really, really awesome sprite. I think they truly exemplify, like, the raw animalistic nature of Rhyhorn, as it looks like it's charging in its sprite. And Rhydon is not as good, but it's still pretty good. It's still up there. Chansey, it's decent. It's pretty good. It's fine. Tangela, an awesome sprite for me. I think Tangela, they really get everything right here with Tangela. Like, they have all these, like, vines covering up as much as possible, except for the tiny amount of space required for it to see. It truly envelops it in this mysterious veil of vines to truly, you don't really know what's under there except for a pair of eyes. And Kangaskhan's pretty good. Kangaskhan's a good sprite. Horsey, it's bottom. I think it's near the bottom of good. Again, same problem with Hypno and Machop. Looks like it got ran over by a steamroller. Now Seadra is a pretty big improvement. Goldeen, it's fine. I just don't like the way that it's like positioned, like how it's upright instead of more sideways. And Seeking, they do a better job with it. I don't know why Seeking's facing to the right instead of the left in this sprite. That's just how the sprite is, but I don't know why they have it facing that way instead of the other way. Now Staryu is a really good sprite. Staryu just it's also not easy to get Staryu wrong, because it's literally just a star with like the gem in the middle, and that's not hard to go with. It's not hard to do it right. Same with Starmie. Starmie's a pretty good sprite. Mr. Mime, it's top of serviceable. Higher than actually just below Weezing. Now Mr. Mime, it's sprites in every other game. They're fine, but in these games, it's the eyes. The eyes, I don't feel comfortable with its eyes, but if the eyes were like just improved to make it look a little bit less creepy, it would be good, but as it stands, they're unserviceable. Scyther is an amazing sprite. They exemplify everything that's cool about Scyther into this little sprite here. How it's like a gigantic praying mantis that will come for you and does not mess around. Jinx is a good sprite. Electabuzz, it's also good. Magmar is pretty good. Pinsir, it's good. It's somewhere around here. Again, it's the eyes. Its eyes are way too tiny compared to the rest of its body, or how it's too tiny compared to what it should be. Tauros, good sprite. Magikarp, I think Magikarp is like one of the most detailed sprites in this game. I don't know how, but it looks so detailed. I guess it's because of just this, like the little ridges of just above its fin. But I think it really, really makes Magikarp stand out and make it look great. Speaking of great, Gyarados, again, another really amazing sprite. You can tell that this thing is threatening the moment you see one of these. And it truly is threatening. Lapras is a good sprite. You can go here. Ditto, it's really, really hard to mess up Ditto. It's literally just a blob with a smiley face. Eevee, you can go here. It's good. Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, they're all pretty good. They can all just chill around there. They're pretty good. Porygon, again, it's another good sprite. Really exemplifies the cubiness of it with all the sharp angles. Omanyte, I really enjoy Omanyte's sprite. Omanyte just has a pretty good sprite. You can go here. It's really good. Now Amistar is just an amazing sprite. I love Amistar's sprite. Okay, where'd Amistar go? Oh, Amistar's down here. Amistar is a really amazing sprite for me, because everyone likes to joke that Amistar sprite is like, it's not there to fight, it's there to throw down dance moves on the dance floor, and yeah, I can definitely see it throwing some sick dance moves on the dance floor. And it's really good. It's really awesome. Now, we have a transition from awesome to awful. I don't like this Kabuto sprite. I don't like how they don't show the underside of Kabuto with the glowing eyes underneath it, like they did in Red and Green. Red and Green sprite is leagues better than this sprite, because it literally looks like a pancake with two teeth. Or tooths. Yeah, I just don't like the sprite. Now, luckily, Kabutops isn't that bad. Not as amazing as Amistar, but it's pretty good. Aerodactyl, it just edges onto the awesome category. There's just something about it, it's awesome, but like, there's just also something about it that just prevents me from putting it into the awesome tier. I don't know what it is, but it just nudges. Like, it's really hard to put it in between of these two, so it's like at the very top of good. Snorlax is a really good sprite. Articuno, I think Articuno's sprite is fine. Same with Zapdos. And Moltres is serviceable. It does the head. It does not look like a Moltres head. Unlike the other two birds, where yeah, you can see it's the bird's head, but for Moltres, it doesn't look like Moltres' head. Dratini is a good sprite. Now, something interesting about Dratini is that the underside of Dratini here, with the lines here, is only present in its Generation 1 sprites, and it's never seen again anywhere else, and I think that's pretty interesting. Dragonair is also a good sprite, same with Dragonite. Mewtwo Sprite is honestly not as bad as most people say. I've heard that Mewtwo kind of looks like a gremlin, or like just really weird to look at, but that's the point of Mewtwo. Like, it's a genetic mutation, it's supposed to look weird, and I really enjoy it for that. And Mew, finally, no, not there. It's really good. A much better improvement of its red and green sprite. Again, it should be Mewtwo that kind of looks more embryo-ish, I guess. I get what they were going with in its red and green sprite, but it kind of looks somewhat uncanny. So I'm kind of glad they like exemplified the cuteness factor of Mew in the red and blue sprite. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say about it. So here is the final tier list here. We have 5 awful sprites, in my opinion. We have some serviceable sprites here. The good sprites, there's a lot of sprites that are just good, but here, in my opinion, are the top tier sprites for Pokemon Red and Blue. So, yeah, this was a little bit unscripted. This is just sort of me rambling on my thoughts about a tier list video, and or about Generation 1 sprites. Now, if you guys want to see more content like this, leave a comment down below and leave a like on this video. If you enjoy what you see on my channel, then why not consider hitting that subscribe button, as it really helps me out. And that's basically all I have to say. I hope everyone who's watching this video has a really great day. Peace.